5 Scary Population Control Conspiracies. With over 7 billion people on the planet, it's no surprise the Earth is starting to seem too small for everyone. Resources are becoming strained, and so it's widely believed that certain agencies are out there working overtime at trying to figure out how to keep the population in check or even cutting it down by large chunks. These are 5 Scary Population Control Conspiracies. Number 5. Executive Order 13603. On March 16, 2012, former President Barack Obama signed Executive Order 13603 into existence. At face value, the 10-page document gives legal authority to the federal government to take over the economy, seizing all commodities and products capable of being ingested by either human beings or animals. It expands to include all forms of energy, all forms of civil transportation, all usable water from all sources, health resources, and induction of persons of outstanding experience and ability without compensation during peacetime and times of national emergency. Above all, the executive order has the power to engage in military conscription without question. In a nutshell, it gives the president the power to control almost every facet of the American industry and of Americans' lives under national emergency situations. The government can simply do what they want if they choose to. One point conspiracy theorists point to is that this executive order could be used to control everything on U.S. soil, including the population. Controlling the economy means controlling the food supply, which in turn prevents population growth. The fear is that, if ever some president in the future decides to use the executive order, it will put the country into a totalitarian regime. What's unusual is that the order doesn't justify any of the consequences that could result if such a thing was put into place, like destruction of liberty, the very thing that America stands for. Even more curious is that this order was signed into law without almost anyone hearing about it. To date, only a few of the stipulations in it have ever been challenged legally. Even Congress members don't know much about this executive order or even what's mentioned in it. Most are even surprised there's an EO allowing the president to gain this much power at just a moment's notice, yet it's a fact that it exists. When it was first signed, the Obama administration said they would never use the order, and they didn't, but it doesn't mean that it won't be used in the future if the White House sees fit to do so. Number 4. Club of Rome. Founded in 1968, the Club of Rome was first created by Italian industrialist Aurelio Pecci. He positioned the club as a global think tank, coming up with answers to some of the most pressing issues affecting the world. According to their website, the club is composed of scientists, business people, economists, politicians, and civil service from 5 different continents. Many conspiracy theorists cite the club as a primary example of a group trying to establish a new world order. It was Thomas Malthus, a prominent scholar, that said a rise in the nation's food production means a better life for the population in general. But this would only be temporary, since a better life meant faster population growth. For Malthus, population growth was inescapable as long as conditions improved. He added that population was kept in check by 2 points, positive and preventative ones. In the positive, there was hunger, disease, and war, raising the death rate in a natural sort of way. On the preventative side, he pointed to birth control, abortion, prostitution, celibacy, and postponement of marriage. Members of the Club of Rome subscribe to this notion of population control as well. They believe that if growth continues to skyrocket, the resources of the planet will not be enough to sustain everyone. Thus, they made a call to the notion of having limits on growth. They shared their fears and thoughts of what might happen if humankind continues on this path and leaves the use of natural resources or growth of population unchecked. Members of the club, Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands and Mikhail Gorbachev, believe humankind needs a common motivation or adversary to create a world government. They came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill. But then they go on to add that the dangers are caused by human intervention, and it is only through changed attitudes and behaviors that they can be overcome. The real enemy, then, is humanity itself. With this train of thought, many think that the club is using issues like climate change, pollution, food shortages, and the like to curb down the amount of people in the world. One thing theorists point to is the fact that foreign aid has significantly decreased over time, showing the selfishness of most of the richer countries of the world. It's the 20% of the richest populations in the world that consume more than 80% of the world's services and goods, including more than half of the world's energy and food. At its core, they see cutting down population as a means to an end. The Club of Rome points out that in the process of fighting against the common enemy, then democracy will be called into question. It will be held responsible for being the reason for a problematic economy, scarcity, and other uncertainties. This could be brought into question and will pave the way for the seizure of power by those with the said intention. Many believe this plan of action is happening right at this very moment and is being applied to our daily lives even without us realizing it. Number 3. Eugenics. For many, the topic of eugenics is old world, but eugenics is a movement that is more prominent today than it has ever been before. Eugenics is aimed at improving the genetic composition of the human race as a whole, and in the good old days, eugenicists promoted the idea of selective breeding in order to achieve this. But nowadays, modern technology is making it easier and even possible to transform and change a person's genetic material without much trouble at all, making it all the more tempting for it to happen. Historically, this idea was first used by Charles Darwin's cousin, Sir Francis Galton, in 1883. He believed selectively breeding people who possess desired traits would be the way of the future. Galton based this on the study of the British upper class, where he concluded the elite position they gained was essentially caused by their genetic makeup. Although Britain never followed through with Galton's idea of selection, many countries took the concept to unusual realms. In the United States, instead of focusing on getting the desirable traits, the eugenicists there focus on stopping the transmission of undesirable traits from one generation to the next. More and more private citizens, U.S. leaders, and large corporations funded studies revolving around eugenics. This led to the creation of the ERO, or Eugenics Record Office, in 1911 in New York. The group tracked families and their history and came up with the result that people with unfit traits often came from people who were poor, immigrants, minorities, and of low social standings. Perhaps one stark example of applying eugenics can be seen with Hitler and the Nazis. One thing not well known is that Hitler's idea of a blonde and blue-eyed master race was never thoroughly his own creation, but in fact was inspired by the United States. In 1924, while Hitler was incarcerated and writing Mein Kampf, he quoted a lot of American eugenicists, showcasing his thorough knowledge about the subject. Hitler states in Mein Kampf, "I have studied with great interest the laws of several American states concerning prevention of reproduction by people whose progeny would, in all probability, be of no value or be injurious to the racial stock." When Hitler came into power, he put his plan of eugenics into action and began sterilizing thousands of Germans. By 1934, Germany was sterilizing people at a rate of 5,000 per month. By the 1940s, people whose conditions were deemed undesirable were then systematically gassed. These included people who were manic depressive, deaf, schizophrenic, alcoholic, blind, had physical disabilities, had epilepsy, or were autistic. Hitler also believed Jews were racially inferior, thus he began his crusade against them as well. Today, the idea of eugenics is so ingrained in our system that most people don't even see it. This type of selective breeding is believed to be in use by the elite as they marry those who are within their circle. Meanwhile, the general public are sterilized through chemicals, toxins, drugs, and processed food. For conspiracy theorists, the effects of eugenics can be seen everywhere. In food, people like Mike Adams from Natural News say much of what we consume and is available out there is poisoned, meaning they contain chemicals that shouldn't be in there in the first place because they add no nutritional value at all. The toxic formulations are created to instigate organ damage, cause cancer, and infertility. Then there's GMOs. Monsanto is the largest producers of genetically modified products. Oddly enough, in their own canteen headquarters, GMO employees have demanded that no GMO-enhanced food should be served, most likely because they know how dangerous these food items can be. And yet, GMO foods are never labeled or differentiated for the ordinary consumer. Then there's the issue of big pharmaceutical companies preventing alternative medications from getting into the market for fear it would overtake their shares. The Food and Drug Administration is said to be serving as a gatekeeper against alternative medication, mostly preventing companies like this from even having the capacity to sell their product at all. It's also possible they want to ensure that they control exactly what chemicals the general public is taking in. Eugenics is already thoroughly ingrained in our system, it appears. People grocery shop and take all the medications their doctors tell them to the point where many people don't even question it anymore. Number 2. Fluoride. Water fluoridation was first introduced in the 1950s and 60s. It's believed having fluoride in the water that the public consumes helps in preventing acid attacks from bacteria that damage the tooth enamel. But for the past 15 years, studies have shown fluoride only works topically, like when we use it on toothpaste. But the CDC argues fluoridation in the United States has helped reduce the amount of tooth decay across the country. While statistically this is true, tooth decay has also declined in countries around the world with no systematic fluoridation of the water, according to the World Health Organization. Even though it's widely accepted, there are those who question the legality and true reason why fluoride is added to the water system. Those opposed to the idea say it's unethical to perform mass medication without a person's individual consent. By adding fluoride in water, those who drink more water than usual, like laborers or those with kidney issues, will not realize they are taking in more fluoride into their body. And in large doses, fluoride can do a huge amount of damage. A study published in 2012 by the Environmental Health Perspectives discovered a link between drinking water rich in natural fluoride in China and other places with the lower IQs found in children. The group looked at 27 studies, 26 of which showed a correlation between high water fluoride levels and lower IQs. Another study done in 2009 monitored fluoride exposure in 600 children and discovered no significant link between tooth decay and fluoride exposure. Conspiracy theorists say fluoride is nothing but a way to numb down the masses and help curb down the population by slowly poisoning everyone. It's undeniable fluoride is toxic when used in concentrations. In fact, it has been linked to the formation of bone cancer in rats. It's also worth noting that rats have a higher resistance against fluoride compared to humans. Multiple studies have also pointed at how fluoride can result in a higher increase in fractures, cause decreased birth rates, and are also harmful to fetuses when taken by pregnant women. It also triggers allergies and hypersensitivity. Einstein's nephew, Dr. E.H. Bronner, stated that, even in small quantities, sodium fluoride is a deadly poison to which no effective antidote has been found. Every exterminator knows that it is the most effective rat killers. Colorless, odorless, stainless, no antidote, no remedy, no hope. Instant and complete extermination, the body refuses to assimilate it. Fluoridation of water systems can be slow natural suicide or quick national liquidation. It's undeniable fluoride is a dangerous chemical that probably shouldn't be included in the water supply at all. But it seems most people don't even realize the dangers and what it is doing to their bodies. Currently, 29 of the 30 largest cities in the United States have fluoride in their water systems. Number 1. New World Order. When it comes to conspiracy theories, the idea of a New World Order is often one of the most prominent. The term NWO, or New World Order, refers to the rise of a purely totalitarian bureaucratic government. At the same time, it's also used as a term to describe events or situations that could pave the way for the creation of such an order. Conspiracy theorists believe the New World Order is being ushered in by a group of powerful elite families who want to shape the world according to their will. Although the order is said to be involved in a variety of nefarious plans, many people believe the most crucial one they're attempting to put in place is population control. The ways the NWO will try to implement this plan is by using modern methods like reproductive health and family planning programs. These programs force people to think of abstinence, abortion, and contraception. At its most extreme, it's said they're ready to cause genocides and unnecessary wars just to curb down the population. This would also include plagues using new viruses, tainted vaccines, and causing environmental disasters. Some even say the Codex Alimentarius, an international guideline of food safety and other recommendations regarding food production and handling, is also said to be another tool used by the order to curb population growth. It suggested that the New World Order is attempting to bring down the world's population of 6 to 7 billion to just 2 billion in order for the human race to survive. These survivors would only be consisted of the best, scientists, politicians, engineers, or part of the elite that are deemed to carry the best traits. For most conspiracy theorists, the establishment and goals of the New World Order undermines the basic freedom of the people. But while most are still on the lookout for the rise of such groups, others say they're already here and have already put their plan into action without any of us even knowing it. So there were 5 scary population control conspiracies. The idea of some group trying to control human population growth from the shadows seemed like a dystopian science fiction film set in the far future. For those who believe in these theories, it's no longer science fiction, but instead our current reality. We have new videos coming out every Wednesday and Saturday, so please remember to subscribe to our channel because you won't want to miss out on what's coming next. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.